Okay, hello there. This is Frank from Optics Warehouse. So, this time of year we're looking at the weather changing, particularly the seasons drawing in and the light changing. So it's a very good opportunity to move on and discuss the night fighting, in this case the night ability of optics, particularly night vision and thermal. Of course, in the military this is a very important aspect, night fighting, particularly in the sniper world. So where the sniper dominates by daytime, he struggles at night. Sometimes the distance by day can be halved at night. To counter this, a number of innovations have been delivered over the years, including image intensification, thermal, and then an integration of both systems, which is now known as fusion. Now, night vision dates back many years. In fact, the Germans in World War II had a system which they tried to utilise. The Americans are very interested in this technology and they took it a stage further. In fact, it was actually employed in some of the later fights in the Pacific War, in Okinawa and battles like that. In Vietnam, the technology was there and the Americans utilised it with great effect. But again, we were talking about the spectrum of image intensification. And just to recap really, in this industry we use two things. We want to recognise what we're looking at and we need to detect something. So really for recognition we would use image intensification with infrared illumination, and for detection we'd use a heat detection system such as thermal. So that's the big differences. The problem with thermal, particularly in the military capacity, is you can identify a heat source, but can you confirm what the target is? Could it be a man, a woman, possibly even a child? Training is needed to be that adept in using the systems, whereas with image intensification we can identify a weapon system, maybe the beard, maybe features which identify this person as a threat. So this leads on to the latest technology. Well, I'd say latest, it's been around for a short while, but certainly fusion is where through one device we can detect, recognise and confirm what we're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a little bit of my experience in the military, but certainly when I first joined the military we used the individual weapon system, IWS, which was a large bulbous night vision optic. There was a device, rather there was a mount which came with it, which enabled it to be fit to the individual rifle, general purpose machine gun, anti-tank, Carl Kustoff, and also the sniper rifle, the L42 at the time. But night fighting was very limited. In the Falklands War, the Argentinian snipers weren't better snipers, but they had the benefit of using American technology. And certainly in the Battle of Mount Longdon, where B Company Free Power faced a group of Argentinian snipers, the Argentinians were credited with being a large number of snipers, whereas in fact it was just a very small 2 to 3 snipers, but using American Gen 2 night vision in that time, they was able to outperform and outsee Free Power, and they actually caused quite a few casualties. So later on in the military we had a simple system where you took your optic off and you put your night vision on, and as soon as we had the transition from day to night again and night to day, the scopes were removed and replaced. There is an overlap that occurs between the two, which is where the night vision doesn't tend to work very well, and also sometimes people can be caught out. So of course the idea was always to have an optic and an image intensification scope fitted it either forward of it or as a combination. Later on we had this in the Simrad. The Simrad was a image intensification scope which clipped on the top of the objective lens of the rifle scope, which enabled you to dial in all the information through your scope and simply convert what you were seeing by day to night. And it was a very good optic in its day. Certainly when I worked in Iraq, we were getting distances out 400, on the odd occasion out to 600 metres of ability to see in the dark, which was outstanding. The only downside of these systems was they were quite high. So again, as technology went on, we wanted to get a lower profile. So the inline system was where it was going. And certainly today, that's what we have. So you have your rifle scope set up, and then in line we'd have your image intensification or your thermal detection system all along one single rail. Okay, so we're just going to talk briefly about the generation system. Different people discuss it in different ways, but certainly in the olden military way, the way we used to label the generations was Gen 1 was about 100 metres, Gen 2, 200 metres, Gen 3, 300, and so on. And the whole point really is for technology and the recognition technology. That's how we sort of labelled it. Of course, there are people in this industry who would tell you it's something different. But basically, in layman's terms, the better the generation, the more efficient, the better you're able to recognise at that distance. So, 1982, June 1982, in the Battle of Mount Longdon, which involved Free Power and an Argentinian Marine and Infantry unit. Free Power were harassed by Argentinian snipers using the latest American night vision. In recent research, it's been discovered that the Argentinians did have some sniper rifles, but they were also using the standard infantry rifle at the time, the FN FAL, with a bipod. The difference was the night vision they had was far outclassed what the British Army was using, which was the IWS, the individual weapon system. And certainly some of Free Power's casualties were caused by single shots being delivered by snipers. A good friend of mine, who was a wireless operator in B Company, was singled out because he had an antenna sticking up and a boom mic in front of his face, and he was shot in the face by one of the Argentinian snipers. In his lucky escape, a bullet hit the mic, smashed some of his teeth out and went out through his lip. If you ever met him today, he'd have the biggest moustache you'd ever see. But it just showed you that the professionalism between the two organisations was really boiled down to the actual fighting ability, which was delivered through night vision. And on that battle, the Argentinians had the big advantage. So the advantage the thermal has over image intensification is the distance it can detect out to. Some of the equipment now goes on at a very long distance. Some of the civilian equipment you can buy now would take you out at 1500 metres plus. So whether you're into hunting, or stalking, or just want to use the night vision at night, maybe for whatever function you're going to use it for, you can acquire a heat source. Again, some of the new technology means that in the olden days where we had white heat or black heat, we can now add colour to it. In fact, we can now add colour to the heat source itself so that you can identify faces, you can identify warm parts of the body. So for in the hunting side of it, when we can see the chest or the area of the heart and the lungs, in some of these spectrums of colour, we can actually identify that as well as the heat source. So it gives you a defined aiming point for when you need to shoot the target. Moving on from thermal, we have fusion. Fusion is technology which is here. It's been here for a short while, particularly within law enforcement and military. And it was described to me once that the future of fusion is in one scope. So we have a day scope, which is your normal vision. So you're looking at things in full colour. Then we can turn it on to thermal. The screen will probably change in colours. Technology has advanced since someone told me this, but the way to describe it is you're now looking at a digital screen and we can detect the heat source. So for example, in the daytime we're moving forwards and there's a tree line there. We want to see what's in the tree line. We can use thermal to look for vehicles, people, anything with a heat source. and then we can switch back to our normal day optic. Fusion, what that brings in now is obviously image intensification. So in low light as well, we've got the ability not only to see the heat source, but to play around with it and see what that heat source is now holding. Identify it is a weapon system, identify it is a boar, or what type of animal it is. So this is how the technology is going. Coupled with this technology, we have the ability to use illumination, like from infrared, whether it's a flare or a pointer or a torch. Again, invisible to the naked eye, but totally visible through the image intensification scope. Some of this stuff is mounted on the equipment. Others can be delivered, like a flare can be fired to illuminate a target area so it can be seen. But the technology is getting there. Certainly what we're looking at the minute is game changing, and certainly a far leap forward compared to the old days in the 80s, which was very much hit and miss, carrying a night vision scope that weighed a ton and had a limited distance. Okay, so what's available today? So of course there's many options with image intensification and thermal in the commercial market today. By way of an example, we've got two here. This is the 007. Now this is a clip-on, so this would clip on your objective lens, and it gives you the ability to see quite a long way in the dark. Currently about £400 is what you'd pay for this. This is the 008, again by Pod. This is a standalone, so this doesn't actually clip on, but again commercially available, a very good piece of equipment. Okay, moving on with the thermal, we're going to look at one commercially available device, and this is called the HELION. This is made by PULSAR, quite a good little device. Again, it's a monocular, so it's a standalone device you can use, which you put your eye and you can identify and detect at a reasonable distance. In my day, of course, back in the early 90s, we had the spyglass, which was a cooled system which worked on gas bottles. It drank penlight batteries, and it was obviously a lot bigger than this system. It was carried around the neck, and it was a big cumbersome device, although it did have a very good function. But this is a very good, simple, easy to use device with a good range. Here we have another example. This is the THERMION, again by PULSAR, and as you can see with this is more of your rifle scope with a built-in thermal detection system in it. So this really, for me, is a preferred system. All in one, no need for anything in line or above or clipped on. Very good little simple and effective device, commercially available. For details on these or other night vision devices, you should follow a link on the Optics Warehouse page, and they'll give you more information, or look at some of the reviews.